All right, well, South Africa's largest wildland firefighting resource, working on fire, turns 19 this month. The program is primarily geared towards assisting the government to fulfill its job creation and social upliftment promise to the people of South Africa, and is implemented on behalf of the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. We're now joined via Zoom by Trevor Abrahams, who is the Managing Director at Working on Fire. Very warm welcome to you, sir. Thanks very much for joining us here on SABC News.
Good afternoon to you and your viewers.
Let's start here. I mean, 19 years of working on fire. Let's talk about, what you consider to be your greatest achievements as an organization. But also, I mean, I'm sure there have been many, many challenges, and we can certainly talk to that in the past 19 years.
Well, thanks. Yes, 19 years has been 19 glorious years in the sense of what we've achieved. As you've said, this was set up as a job creation program.
Yeah.
But we've achieved much, much more. I think in the first instance, those who know us in yellow know us for our firefighting work that we do throughout the country. We, on average, attend to 2,500 fires a year. And we also do some work internationally. We've gone 4 times to Canada, to Chile, Indonesia. And during our last visit, the Minister of Manitoba, in fact, gave each firefighter and each member of the team an individual letter of thanks for the duty that we performed while we were there. So we've created a globally recognized wildland firefighting unit. But I think the untold story is the transformation that we bring in people's lives, the young people, unemployed youth, who learn not only just to do firefighting, learn leadership and learn skills, which then many have taken on to, in fact, procure jobs in the private sector, in government, and elsewhere. So a lot of our success stories, in fact, are those who are no longer with us, but actually have succeeded in getting full-time employment.
Yeah.
And, just this past weekend, the structural firefighting had the toughest firefighter competition on the 16 and 17 in the Southern Cape. And unsurprisingly, the top female was, in fact, a former WAF firefighter. The top female group was a group from Working on Fire. The top male group was from Working on Fire. And so, they've not only gone on to take on other jobs as rangers and in the municipalities, in the South African police, but they excel there. So this has been a huge stepping stone for more than 15,000 people who've gone through the program during the 19 years.
Yeah, Mr. Abrahams, I guess then you did anticipate my next question, because I wanted to talk about whether or not you believe that, you've fulfilled your mandate. As we say, it started out as some sort of job creation program. But, on the back of that, let me then ask you, about the sort of interest in the field in the first place, because you can want to create as many jobs as you want, but if people are not interested, that's a whole different story. I want to talk to the interest. I mean, do you find many young people sort of, knocking on your doors and wanting those sort of opportunities and to learn? As you say, you're transforming people's lives and they're able to do bigger and better after leaving WAF.
The interest is a very interesting question you're raising. When we advertise positions in the local communities where we recruit from, invariably there are many, many more people than the positions open, and that's poverty. Yeah, there's simply poverty. When we advertise for a team of 25 in the Kantla area, we had 1,500 applicants turning up. One of our managers, who started off as a firefighter, she's now a general manager in the Eastern Cape. When she graduated from a UCT program, a management program, the journalist asked her, when you went for recruitment, you had to run the 2.4 kilometer. Why did you have to run? Her answer is, I finished high school. I was unemployed for 5 years. I was running away from poverty.
Shame.
That gives you a sense of the demand. Yes, firefighting is dangerous. It's hard work. There's a glamour to it. But I think at the end of the day, when we do our recruitment, we see the effect of poverty in this country.
Yeah, we know, just on a side note, and actually a big issue is the fact that we have this growing threat of climate change globally, as we see more floods, we're starting to see more fires, more droughts, wildfires, so forth. So I suppose that your teaching has now also had to take a different turn, in that you're now also having to teach about some of what's going on when we're talking about climate change. I mean, how have your teachings changed, let's say 19 years ago to now, where there's very many different factors that you're now also having to deal with as firefighters, essentially?
Absolutely correct. I mean, we started off from a team of 850 in 2003. We're now 5,300 strong, and we have already determined that we should actually be 17,000 strong to cater to the needs of the country. Yeah. But I've just returned from representing a paper at the International Association of Wildland Fires in Pasadena in California. The theme of the conference was climate change and wildfire. So that's becoming a very important factor in terms of us looking at what we're doing. We've hosted webinars on climate change and impact on fire here. And in South Africa, we're having much more disaster fires, in terms of how long they last, the area they burn, the threat to life and property. And, we've tracked it, from 2016 in the Harry Smith fires, where a number of lives were lost, 2017, the Knysna fires, where we had up to 500 firefighters on that fire, to 2018, the Overstrand, 2019, the Free State, and so it goes on, and it's been going on every year. We've been having disaster fires, and I think more importantly, we typically have two fire seasons: the summer fire season, which typically used to range from December through to about April, and then the winter fire season, which used to run from June till about October for the rest of the country, the summer obviously being the Western Cape and parts of Eastern Cape. We're now seeing more and more big fires happening outside of those seasons. So in the example of Knysna, that happened in the winter, in June, out of the Cape's fire season, So vergelegen, there's a fire in the Cape now, outside of its fire season. So clearly the impact of climate change is going to impact on us. And the studies tells us, some researchers at the University of Alberta have in fact pointed out that in the last decade, we've had 8 of the worst fire seasons globally. Yeah. The UN report, in fact, says that by 2030, we are in fact going to have a huge increase in the fires, so much so that by the end of the decade, we'll have 50% more fires. So if we are busy tending 2,500 fires, by 2030, we're probably going to have to attend to 3,000. Yeah. So, it's there. And everyone is seeing it in front of us in terms of Europe. You can see what the heat waves did there. Yeah. The fires in the US. And when we go to Canada, we're going because Canada's outstripping their own firefighting resources. Yeah.
Just as we wrap up our conversation, Mr. Abrahams, you mentioned in passing, that there are, certain areas that, you sort of traditionally recruit from. But, if there's a viewer, watching, a young person watching this and saying, this is something I'd actually like to do, how would they then be able to, outside of your recruitment areas, be able to get hold of you and, be able to apply for certain positions?
Look, our ability to recruit is simply limited by government funds. Yeah. And unfortunately, because that has been declining, but we typically have to replace people from time to time. So we recruit generally within the area where there are gaps. So we would advertise in that local community that there's recruitment taking place. It has to be a public notice at the churches, at the convenience stores in the locality, and they will see we're recruiting. So at this stage, by financial constraints, we're simply recruiting to replace where we have people who move on. Yeah. And trust that within the communities where we do recruit, that message does get out, and generally it does. As I said, when we run our recruitment exercises, we oversubscribed into the people who turn up.
All right, Mr. Abrahams, it's been a pleasure. Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks very much for giving us your time, and happy 19th then to WAF, and continue the good work that you're doing. Many thanks from us.
Sure, we're certainly looking forward to many more.
All right, that is
Thank you.
Trevor Abrahams, who's the MD at Working on Fire.